Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'll just wait for a couple of minutes for everyone to join in. Awesome. I'm Kavya, Director of Product Marketing at TestMu AI, and I'll be your host for this session at TestMu Conference. Welcome to day two. I hope you're, getting started. Have a cup of coffee or water in your hand, and because this is going to be a very exciting session. A quick ask before we begin: please post your takeaways on LinkedIn or X, tag us, that is TestMu AI and Lazar as well as Lovable, and use TestMu Conference so that the rest of the community can follow this conversation. A quick note, Lazar has kindly announced that any, folks, in fact, he's going to look at top 10 posts, which would basically be sharing the learnings from this session. And he's going to give 100 dollar worth of free lovable credits to those 10 folks. So that's a huge thing, by the way, folks. So I would really request you to share the learnings on social media, tagging the team as well as Lazar and the team, of course. So really so huge shout out to everyone who's joining in. And if you have any questions during or after the session, feel free to drop them in the Q&A box. We'll take the questions towards the end. Now, coming to the topic, right? Most of us have now built something with AI in an afternoon that would have ideally taken a week, perhaps. The demo works, everyone's impressed, and then the question starts coming in: who owns it? What happens when the data model changes, and so on. Now, that gap between something that works once and something a team can actually run is where the real engineering sits. So, the question on the table is: what does a repeatable, scalable, secure build process look like? Meet Lazar. Lazar Jovanovic is the first vibe coding engineer hired at Lovable, and he has built over 500 production ready apps, mostly internal tooling for Lovable's own go to market team. He's going to walk through building your own MCP in Lovable and using it from Claude, driving Lovable via its MCP, creating skills, and using product knowledge and spec driven development to get to production grade. Please join me in welcoming Lazar, white coding engineer from Lovable, who's going to speak about going past the vibes, how to build real apps. Welcome to you, Lazar. Welcome to the
Thanks,
session.
thanks for an amazing introduction. And everybody, once again, I want to repeat what was suggested earlier. Please, as you go through today's session, take screenshots, tag me personally as much as possible. Then later on, I will just randomly pick top 10 posts and I'll give you some lovable credit so that you can build something hopefully inspired by today's session, because today's session is about me taking you on a journey, and that journey will hopefully take us what I would call personally way past vibes, right? As suggested just a minute ago, I joined Lovable as a professional vibe coder around a year ago from now. And as you can see, I've been very active. I've done over 100 edits per day on average, spent 358 days building in Lovable, 233 of those basically without stopping, right? The one thing I learned 37,385 edits later is that I should really stop calling this vibe coding. And that is mostly because I believe we're at the moment where we are way past vibes. And this is the journey, again, that I want to take you on today and give you 12 different examples, each example for one of the letters that you're seeing in front of you. So W, A, Y, and all the other ones, and illustrate why I believe we're ready for the next chapter and that we need to start renaming things, but also start thinking differently about tools as Lovable as being more than just a prototyping tool and more than just a place to build a small website and then just graduate to another website. So it all starts with a W, right? And I want to set you up for a win, but most of you are probably still stuck in this mode, writing the same prompt from scratch and praying it lands well and praying that it actually works. What I believe the situation is now, however, and what you're supposed to start thinking about is, if I want to build something repeatable and scalable, I should instead write a skill once and then the agent will know how to work its way around things every time that I want. I've been here a million times. I would literally do this. I would say redesign the dashboard and then just like type something out. What I've learned is that if you are doing something more than twice and redesigning is such process, that deserves creating a skill, right? And as you will see on my screen, creating a skill is super, super simple, right? Skills are nothing but files or a set of files and a set of instructions that an agent takes as an input whenever you invoke it without you having to prompt it, right? Building skills in Lovable is as simple as going to your settings, going through the customizations menu and finding skills. And skills can be either built for an entire workspace or for yourself, and you can import them from GitHub if you found them elsewhere, or you can build them from scratch. Basically, all that a skill needs really is a name, a description, and some kind of a content that talks about what this skill is about and how it's supposed to work, right? As you will see on my screen in a second, this is, for example, a skill that I built that works for power slides, really builds great slide decks. I want to encourage you to build slide decks in Lovable. It's such a powerful use case, such an easy use case to understand, and a use case that resonates. When you invoke a skill like a redesign skill, you can see that Lovable will offer you multiple design options to choose from, right? That's the new layer of flexibility that the platform can give you. If you build a proper skill, it will follow along. And then from there, if you just click to accept one of the proposals, or if you modify them in any way whatsoever, Lovable will produce them on brand and in line with what you were already designing in your application, right? So, first step, stop thinking about prompting, start thinking about building skills, right? Let's dissolve that and let's move on to the next letter in our alphabet, right? And that one is usually for me the A, which stands for attempting to describe a visual change in 3 paragraphs. I'm a very bad designer. I built a lot of apps, but I'm still struggling getting things to look and feel the way I feel like they should. I don't know how to describe some of the changes. I don't know how to describe some of the elements. And I assume most of you don't either. But rest assured, Lovable has you covered. Today, you can annotate, draw, fix, and send all at once. It is super simple to make visual changes using the visual editor. You can literally draw on your screen. I mean, just take a look at what I'm doing here, right? If I wanted to change this company box or want to remove any of the elements, I just put a cross over it, right? Whatever I want to do, I can just simply draw a circle around it, or maybe even cross it if I want to remove it. If you made a mistake, don't worry, Lovable is very forgiving. You can undo it and redo it again, right? So using the annotations tool is super cool because when combined with prompt, you can see that it renders as a screenshot. So as you draw, Lovable is looking at that drawing that you made, generates a snapshot in time, and then basically in real time, as you will see in a second, in front of your eyes, literally removes the thing. Like, again, take a look at this piece right here, right? It edits, it's going to edit in a second this domain, and then finally the launch line score, which I edited. So it's not just that these changes occur, they occur in real time, and they were entirely based on a drawing, not so much on the prompt. Now, making text changes is even cooler these days because you can just literally do it as your app was a Word document, right? Just click, make a textual change, send that prompt, and Lovable will be able to make a visual edit. And most importantly, for a lot of you, I assume, these edits are completely free. As you will see in a second, credits used 0. So if you use Lovable to make visual edits via text, those changes will be completely free of charge. So again, start thinking more about drawing and less about describing what you want to change, right? On my y-axis now, I would say it starts with yet another off button in yet another off branch shade. Design consistency, AI slop. That's all that you've been all hearing about for months now, right? Well, I can say we got you covered and we solved it because as of yesterday, this is super exclusive information. Lovable, on all pro and business plans as well, supports bringing in and creating your own design system as a core source of truth for anything that you want to build. To build a design system, all you'd have to do is start from scratch, call it whichever name you want, and then you can even build a design system based on your app. You can see that, well, as I was preparing for this session, I was literally, hey, let's build a design system for way past vibes. And as you can see, Lovable, while building a design system, has the capability of browsing your website, taking screenshots, and doing anything it needs to, as you can see in my preview, produce something that is 100% on brand. So if you have an existing website, or if you have an image, or if you have, for those that are technical, npm or npx packages that you want to load, Lovable works with all of those, produces colors that look like your brand, typography, iconography, as well as even reusable components, right? Super powerful if you ever want to reuse something over and over again. And shipping things in this way, in releasing design systems, is as easy as clicking a single button, right? You just go release a version, and then if you want to use it, it is super, super simple. You click on the plus icon, go to use a design system, attach it, and then whatever you want to build, it will look and feel and use those same design tokens as we just generated a second ago, right? Getting this to work with AI is one of the most challenging things, as most of you know, because AI can be super creative, likes to deviate, likes to do things its own way. Well, if you use a design system, which all of you will be able to do starting today on any of our plans, you will get something that looks and feels on brand every single time, right? So again, super powerful way of making sure that things look and feel the way you want them to. All right, let's start moving a little bit past and moving on to letter P over here, right? And P for me stands for pouring the same context back at the start of every session. We all know this, super painful, right? Every time you start a new chat, every time you start a new project, every time you turn off your computer, you have to remind your tool, your Claude, your whatever, who you are, what you do, what the project is about. Well, not anymore. With Lovable and its project knowledge and memory, you can carry your decisions and constraints forward in perpetuity. And using these systems is super simple, right? A year ago, I would do something like this. I would say, every time I prompt, I need you to do something or reuse something, right? You would have to attach something at the beginning of every request. Well, today you can just click on the plus icon and go to knowledge and move into this section to define your project knowledge. And I like to personally do a trick here. I always say, before any response, say back to me we're using knowledge. That way, if Lovable responds with this sentence, I know that it's listening. And then I just can use something like a test here, which is, usually I like to know when a code change is made, what was done, how to test it, and what should I build next, right? So in this example, I was just sending a prompt away for our page that we were building thus far. Let's create an about section for the company, right? And as you can see here, Lovable starts its response with, we're using knowledge. That's how I know the agent is listening. That is super powerful. So whatever I wrote in my project knowledge, whether that would be a convention that's very important or not, Lovable would remember. And speaking of memory, Lovable does have a memory about you too, right now, about who you are, what you're building, how you're building, etc. And it allows you to edit it. So that's very cool and very important in the sense of how the system shapes against you, right? And as you can see here, right, Lovable in its response said what change, how to test it, and what to build next. So it completely obeyed my initial instructions that I set inside project knowledge and leveraged its memory against my request. That way allowing me to build a system that relies on something deeper than just a single prompt, right? Okay, let's go to another letter A, and this A stands for API keys pasted into files and hoping nobody looks. Everybody remembers leaked API keys all over GitHub and stuff like that, that most builders had issues or have issues when they're first starting off. Look, managing secrets and managing these things is not easy, right? It's something that if you, as a never developed software, and I personally never did before I discovered Lovable, I didn't even know about it as a concept. I barely knew what APIs meant, right? So for people like that, having a good system like automatic security reviews and managed secrets on every build is super important. And again, Lovable has you covered on both of those things, right? If you want to add a connector, and by the way, Lovable supports over 140 different ones today automatically out of the box. But if you want to add a custom one, add a custom API, you're more than welcome to. As you do this, in this example, I will connect my app to HubSpot. You will see how easy and simple it is to manage this relationship and this connection securely without ever compromising or pasting API keys, while also having the ability to decide what type of connection you want. There are chat connectors and there are app connectors, and both of those can be built inside Lovable super seamlessly, depending on who you want to use them, see them, and how you want them being used. And as you can see, you add a client ID, client secret, or a service key safely and securely, not in the chat. And then going forward, whenever you need a connector, you just approve it. We even make collaboration restricted for certain connectors by design to make sure that no one can see the data that they're not supposed to, even if they are part of your workspace, right? Some of the connectors are supposed to be private, right? Like in this case scenario. As you go on to build secure connections, you also want to make sure that your app is secure. With every code change, Lovable does a basic security scan against your code and your dependencies, but you're also welcome to, and you can do as many deep security scans as you want, even edit your security memory to emphasize things that are very important to you from that standpoint. And the coolest part about the security scans at Lovable and security fixes is that they are free as well. So security should never come as an afterthought. And for us, it comes with every single code edit and with every single secret that you are supposed to securely place inside your vault, right? So let's go to another S and let's think about how the past used to look like. The past used to look like stitching a backend together across 4 dashboards and 3 bills. I'll say when I first started vibe coding, I had to create a free Supabase account because it's like every, if I recall, where the limit was 2 projects per account or something. So I ended up having like 20 or 30 Supabase accounts that I had to manage and pay for. And I mean, it was insane, right? Today, I no longer have to do that because with Lovable, storage, database, AI models, image gen, everything that someone needs on day one just comes out of the box and it can be switched on as a default, right? It's as easy as finding a reason to introduce a database and then leading with suggesting to Lovable that you want to enable Lovable Cloud so that your changes are not living in a browser but living saved, and then Lovable AI Gateway in case you want to use AI in any capacity in your projects. Lovable AI Gateway can generate text, it can do an analysis, research, generate images, and it's as simple again as you just ask for it and Lovable just does it and it just works for you, right? As you can see here, it configures even social authentication, like something that I really love. You know, I remember back in the day adding Google login required me to go to Google console, build an API key. I mean, it was a pain in the butt, honestly. But when you take a look at it now, it's just a part of the process, right? And in one prompt, you have a database, you have an AI model, you have social login. I mean, this is just insane how easy it is. And again, how safe and secure it is at the same time to do stuff like this. As you'll see in a second, you just click to continue with Google. Your authentication is fully set up and you're ready to go off to the races. In my case, this is connected to a real HubSpot instance. And I can even do an AI analysis of a lead here, for example, and see what's the likelihood to close that lead. And all of this is real data. Everything that you're seeing, that's real. That's something that's real, and all of it is properly stored on the backend inside the database. All of my users that sign up are also available to me, as well as their methods of signing up, right? All of my secrets are managed, and I can even monitor usage. I can even know how much does it cost for me to run this project in database credits, or as we call them, run credits. So Lovable is more than a tool, again, that allows you to build. As you've just seen, it allows you to run your business as well. And you'll see more, right? Because we're just moving on to the letter T. And T for me was always a painful one. You launch your project, and then what? For with most vibe coding platforms out there, right? Um, you edit things in production, meaning something is already live and people are seeing it as you're making edits. That's super scary, right? Especially if you have active users. Well, this is still a beta feature, but it's going to become an alpha very soon, so I can show it to you. With Lovable, now you can create drafts. Basically, to those that are technical, this will work similarly like branching does. Today, it works primarily for making UI changes, but what that allows you to do is using your voice too. By the way, I love dictating. As you can see, I love yapping a lot. So when I build with Lovable, I use its voice feature too. It allows you to build another version of your application or your interface and make edits in parallel on your draft as you're making edits on your main branch as well. As you will see in a second, Lovable can work in parallel with two agents running in the same project without ever interrupting one another, right? Lovable's working on main, Lovable's working on this draft, right? And then as the edits on draft land, you can very easily and safely merge those changes together. With Lovable resolves any merge conflicts on its own. I mean, it's powered by a very smart AI system and built by a very smart group of engineers. So it knows how to resolve any potential conflicts while making updates. And then as you merge the branches, everything resolves into the main. And from that point on, you can continue to create new drafts or make any new edits safely. If you wanted to test something, this is probably the best way to do so. Because when you build a draft, nothing on the main branch is affected until it's merged together, right? And as you can see here, I was just building this sort of light and dark mode, and it kind of worked out pretty well, I'd say, on this app. Yeah. So, okay, we're going into the last bit because we went way past, and now all we have left is 5 letters, vibes, right? And one of the big pieces of vibing that was always a constraint from my point of view is that you could do it on one screen, right? If you build in Lovable, you build in Lovable, right? That's it. You couldn't access your code base, you couldn't access your app that easily from another surface. What's cool about Lovable today is that via MCP, Lovable meets you wherever you're at, in your editor, terminal, or any chat, right? In my example, if I'm not in Lovable, I'll be in Claude. And as you can see here, in just a couple of clicks, by going and moving into connector database and searching, I can already find Lovable as one of the top connectors in Claude Marketplace and connect my Lovable account with Claude, the chat, not even Claude Code. Like if you want to use Claude Code or ChatGPT or anything else, you're more than welcome to. When you add a connector, all you have to do is set the permissions for it, right? In my case, I'm an always allow guy. Like I always want to give full permissions to any of my orchestrating agents and give them the ability to, without interruptions, make edits. And as you can see, this project that I've been working on today all along is called Launchline Studio. All I have to say is, hey, let's make this edit or this change, and Claude and access it in my workspace in Lovable and suggest ideas to me. And if I like them, I can just ask him to ship them, right? Now, as you'll see in a second, Claude is not gonna go and build a new project for me. It's actually gonna send a message to Lovable inside the Lovable chat. I'm only using Claude as an intelligent orchestrator here, and there are certain situations I like to use it for, mostly for brainstorming and planning. And as you can see, this prompt was never written by me. This prompt was entirely written by Claude and sent to the Lovable agent, right? So again, wherever you at, Lovable can meet you. This is where I think we're gone with the vibes, and we're moving into something way, way more complex, right? One of the most complex use cases that you will find today is this one, right? Integrations, right? You know all about them. How many of you had a chance to build one of your own? And how many of you non-technicals have been able to build your app into an integration or an MCP? If you haven't done it, I urge you to test it out today, because it's as simple as a couple of clicks. Lovable MCP is one thing, but your app MCP is something completely else. And now inside Lovable, inside Agent Integrations menu, you can enable agent integrations and build your app into an MCP. Define its MCP tools, define how you want it to do and what you want it to do. For an MCP to work, your app needs to be published, right? Safe publishing is a part of the process at Lovable, and we obviously provide the hosting for your apps, whether that's under a custom domain or a lovable.app domain, doesn't matter really. It's still going to work, and it's still going to work perfectly with 100% uptime. It's as simple as publishing, getting your MCP link. We even give you all the instructions how to connect. So you don't even have to know anything, right? You're literally just following the instructions, clicking buttons. Lovable just takes you wherever you need to be, gives you the sort of detected and recommended settings to build something like this. And then from there, with a single OAuth moment, allows you to connect Claude to your application via MCP, right? So what I just did earlier in the previous steps with Lovable, now I just did with my own Launchline Studio. As you can see, I'm literally adding Launchline Studio into Claude, and I can talk to it. I can invoke things. I can ask questions. Launchline Studio is like an agency thing that I built that can scan websites and whatnot. So from Claude, I can ask it to give me the latest audit results or anything else really for that matter, which is super powerful. That means that myself, my team, or whoever else can use not just Lovable, but an app that I built on Lovable in any chat in the world. Again, this is not vibe coding. This is pure engineering that used to take days and weeks and decades of experience compressed into 2 clicks, right? Now, as you build, bugs do come up, right? And issues will emerge. AI is still AI. Some people call it average intelligence, and I'll agree. Sometimes it's quite average, right? The last thing you want is for a bug to be surfaced and found on a Sunday afternoon by a customer. So that's why with Lovable, you can now turn on background monitoring scans so that errors are flagged while you sleep. Couple of clicks of a button, you click on your project name, you go to your project settings, and as you scroll down, you will see that we just launched a beta for project monitoring where Lovable checks your code changes and recent error logs. Just turn it on, build the schedule whichever way you want it to, whether that's daily or whether that's based off of an edit or not. Save it and let it run. And then, as you will see in a second, as these checks run, you will be able to observe them, view the history of what was going on, days when it ran, and how many issues it found, right? And this is super powerful. Like, it tests your app while you sleep so that other people don't have to, right? And what's even cooler about it is that it notifies you via email, right? This is a real email for a real project that I built internally at Lovable, where I was notified of a problem that no one else in the team knew about. And I just went and fixed it. This is precious for all of you who have a production-ready app and you built something and you just want to make sure that it always works, right? 2 more letters, guys. One of the big E's for me is the enterprise, right? Lovable is used by some of the biggest enterprise companies in the world, with the likes of Uber, NVIDIA, T-Mobile, and many, many more, right? To be able to be enterprise ready, you need to have trust built in from day one. And the way Lovable generates trust and the way I want you to start thinking about it is that we take security element possible. On plans like business and enterprise, you can put in any kind of restriction on a project or workspace level. You can block phishing. You can auto-fix security issues. You can do so many things, including doing sensitive data scanning to enable PII detection. So personally identified information. If somebody's pasting in something that they shouldn't be, they can be blocked. As people build, right? As an owner of a workspace, you can do security insights and code analysis and even review secrets to block any project that's sensitive from publishing and look at the entire audit log of who's doing what and how are they doing it, right? That way, maintaining a full control of the safety and security aspects of your workspace. You can as well impose usage controls and limits, see how many credits are being consumed in your workspace for building and running applications as well. So for any workspace admins, any IT admins in the crowd, this is the way to go. This is the golden standard. And the reason why I believe Lovable is at the forefront is because just recently we became the first AI coding agent platform to achieve 𝐇𝐢𝐠𝐡𝐥𝐢𝐠𝐡𝐭𝐬, the first industry security, safety, and reliability standard. And you can download our report from the website just to learn more about it. It's the best thing ever, right? Just puts S in security for Lovable, right? And speaking of S, that's the final letter, right? And it talks about the moment everybody is thinking of, right? Okay, Lazar, you showed us how to build stuff. What about post building? What happens after I ship? How are you supporting me in that aspect, right? And I got you covered as usual. With Lovable, you can set up domains, payments, emails, SEO all in one spot, right? I built many websites and many businesses in the past, and this used to be a pain in the butt. Like you'd had to have multiple tools and multiple surfaces to do all of these things. Now, all you got to do is go to Lovable and say, hey, I just need payments, and whether you want to use Stripe, Paddle, or any other vendor provider, maybe you're limited in your country, you can now accept payments globally directly from here with pay-as-you-go pricing and flexible tax and compliance handling, right? All we need is your email address, business or personal name, and just got to select the country, which is in this case supported by Stripe, and just enable payments, right? And you can just start taking money. We also build a sandbox environment and even give you prompts. Like this prompt wasn't written by me. I just asked Lovable to add it, right? Lovable, if it has any questions, if it wants to keep me in the loop and involved, will ask those. All I got to do is state my opinion about how I think payments should work, subscriptions should work. Again, no coding whatsoever. And a few minutes later, I'm ready to accept payments. I mean, this is nuts because I worked in a team in the past where it took us 6 months to migrate from one payment vendor to another with a team of 10 engineers. Now it's 3 prompts away, right? If you want to start sending emails from your domains, really the same thing. No API keys, nothing. All you got to do is set up your email domain. You will go through a guided process. Lovable will ask you to import and bring in your domain if you have one, or buy one if you don't have it. And it will help you set up a mailbox and an email address that you can immediately start using, right? When you launch, very important for everybody, you want to be discovered by agents, by humans, right? Regardless of both, you can now use our SEMrush powered integration to find and fix all of your SEO issues so that when you launch, you can see where are people coming from. That's right. Lovable also has built-in analytics. So no more need for Google Analytics, Pixels, or anything like that. It just comes out of the box with Lovable, right? So hopefully today we went way past vibes together, and that you've seen and learned alongside me that Lovable is a place where people are not just building websites, they're also building, running, and growing their businesses. And I'm leaving you with an Easter egg because will give you the link to this website. The website link is waypastvibes.lovable.app. If you click on the letter S and if you liked this website, you can now build your own. Maybe you like the whole experience. You're like, Lazar, I really love it. Well, If you're a founder that wants to tell their story, or you want to announce a product launch or a portfolio showcase or build a team manifesto, just fill this out and make this yours. You can just, with a single click, start building your version in Lovable. You can copy the brief, and then basically what you're going to get is a prompt like this, right? Then you can just go to Lovable, send it away, and start building your first application. Hope you had a lot of fun. I'm open to some questions. I hope you took some screenshots. I hope you got to learn a couple of things or two. Very excited to hear. Maybe I don't know how much time we have. Maybe about 10 minutes, so maybe 2 or 3 questions if we can squeeze them in.
Thank you so much, Lazar. That was a really interesting session. Lord, I'm pretty sure that our audience would be able to take away a lot of insights. Yeah, we do have a couple of questions, and I know that we have near about 5 to 7 minutes. So let me just bring up the first question on the screen, which is, what's the most challenging feature or function to accurately vibe code in an app?
I would say it's not about the features, it's about how clearly do you know to articulate what you want to build. Like, everything is buildable as long as you have the capability of describing it the right way. I think the biggest problem with building anything using natural language stems from us not being great at using natural language, right? Like, we don't always know how to describe things the right way. And I think the challenge begins with trying to build something super complex, thinking that it can land in just one prompt. Just because a prompt is super long doesn't mean that everything gets built right away. Every agent today and every large language model today is constrained by the same resource, which is tokens, right? So it's very finite. Therefore, your job needs to be understanding, okay, if I have 1 million tokens or 250,000 tokens, whatever the limit is, approximate in your mind how big of a chunk of work do you expect to do here. So if you're like adding an about page, that's easy. You can do that in one prompt. But if you're like, hey, I want to build, an entire clone of Stripe, that's not a one prompt, right? So that will require some planning, some specs. So I think that is actually the biggest challenge in vibe coding today. Understanding when to vibe versus when not to, when to prompt versus plan, when to have one request versus having 15 PRDs that are supporting a bigger chunk of work. Yeah.
Thank you so much. We do have another question, which is from Bharat. What strategies do you use to ensure that the vibe coded app meets the required security requirements?
Personally, I know our security team is world class. I put all of my reliance into our security reviewer that I've just demonstrated earlier a second ago on Lovable, which, again, when we make any code edit, we do a basic scan of that. Like, after it lands, the system scans to see if AI agent, while building, may have exposed something, or there's something that it's not supposed to. And we actually block projects from being published until major security vulnerabilities have been completely addressed and removed. So for me personally, I don't have a strategy. I just run security checks because, again, they're free, and fixing security vulnerabilities is free. So if it costs me nothing, why wouldn't I just use it? And personally, again, as you said, I built over 500 websites, never had any problems whatsoever so far, because Lovable is just really good at scanning this, because we always, when building a new feature in the tool, think primarily about the security aspect and making sure that the agent has the awareness of this feature and has the ability to scan it properly. Yeah.
Thank you. There's one question which is interesting because, yeah, I mean, vibe coding has been evolving, of course, in a rapid manner. Of course, let me unpin this question. But the question is primarily on how do you think vibe coding will differ in 2027 versus 2026?
I think, again, and I hope that this landed well. We are going way past vibes, as my T-shirt suggests. Like, we use the term vibe coding because there wasn't a better description of what it was. Like, I personally started doing it before it was even a term, before Andrej Karpathy came out and said, oh, it's just giving into the vibes, right? And that used to be true in February 2025. When he said it, that was exactly how it felt. You had to release control and think about, okay, I'll just give in and whatever happens happens. I think we're already past that. As you've seen, like, you have security controls, security reviews, deployment, uh, prod versus dev. There's so many things that are where vibe code engineering is starting to kind of get distance from the vibe coding thing and starts to get closer to the engineer part. Find me an engineer today that's not using AI for 90% or 100% of their code. There's probably almost none of them. So I think vibe coding bit served us very well. The engineering bit is what's actually happening and what I'm seeing happening, meaning engineering becomes a natural language movement. So in 2027, we're just going to see more and more of that. I think we're going to see people literally not even typing things anymore, just using their voice. We're going to see agents running in the background based on a script or a set of skills. I mean, you just saw me present what we internally call a heartbeat, which is your project monitoring. It literally works overnight and just comes back to me every morning. If there's a problem to address, I just fix it. I mean, that's insane. Having a QA engineer running the whole night, clicking everywhere and trying to break your application. So I think we're just going to go closer and closer and closer to a world where we don't have to do the tedious bits of building, and where the only thing we are going to be responsible of is judging what gets to be built in the first place, which I think is very rewarding when you think about it, because that is supposed to be what the humans are about, making these judgmental decisions versus typing stuff out like on a typewriter 50 years ago.
Awesome. I'd probably take one more question if that is okay. So this question
Yeah.
is on, what automated eval framework do you recommend to verify that an agent-built app is truly production ready?
Um, Personally, I have a lot of, like, again, I'm not an engineer by background, so I wouldn't be able to build better than what I'm doing today. Um, for production readiness, you can actually ask Lovable to do an end-to-end test using any evaluation methodology that you want. Again, Lovable has the ability of building playwright tools. It has the ability of browsing its own app, clicking, signing up with fake users, like, you name it. It can do anything you want it to. So you can just ask Lovable to perform end-to-end tests. That's usually how I do it. And I don't go too deep into the methodology because, like, I think in the end, the users don't care about it. What users care about it, whether it works. As people sign up, if they come to me and say something doesn't, I just fix it and ship the fix right away. That's the advantage of these tools, is that even if a bug does occur that is never caught, and if it's performance based and you hear about it from a user, you can fix it in 5 minutes. And I mean, that's just the beauty of working with AI and working with tools like Lovable. And again, appreciate you for kind of highlighting the link for Way Past Vibes. Again, I'm looking forward to seeing what people build. I'm hopeful that any of you go through the website and actually build your own presentation. Please tag me. I haven't tested this prompt. I would really, really be curious to see what comes out of it. So please tag me, DM me, add me on LinkedIn, whatever. I'm very, very responsive.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lazar. That was a very insightful session. I really appreciate you giving us the time and all the insights that you had to share today. To our audience, please make sure that you are sharing the insights, tagging, and the learnings tagging Lazar, so that, of course, he can give you the credits if your post meets it. To our audience, please make sure that you are, of course, sharing the learnings. And thank you so much for joining us today. Once again, Lazar, really appreciate it. Have a great rest of the day, everyone.
Thank you. Keep shipping, everybody.
See you.